What does the new Hulu documentary series about Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt tell us about Mormonism, religion, and American culture? My name is Benjamin Park. I'm a scholar of American religion and author of the book American Zion, A New History of Mormonism. Let's dig into Devil in the Family. First, a couple of disclosures. This documentary series deals with some dark issues. Jodi Hildebrandt first abused her children emotionally and spiritually before physically in some quite troubling and traumatic ways. So this series might not be for everyone. Be cautious. And second, I was an early consultant on the series in its formative stages, along with several other historians they spoke with. But in the end, I had no real role in the putting together of the final project. So with that out of the way, let's dig in. Now, Devil in the Family tells us several major lessons about American culture. I'll start with what it tells us about Mormonism. While Franke and Hildebrandt, as I'll discuss later, were far from representative, especially in their most extreme actions, they did reflect a common impulse within the Mormon Church that began a couple decades ago. Starting with the spread of the internet and social media in the first couple decades of the 21st century, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were directed by their leaders, like the Apostle M. Russell Ballard, to use the internet in order to spread the gospel, but to do so in less intrusive ways. By instead of pressing your doctrines and ideas in the Book of Mormon, they should spread the gospel by demonstrating the richness of their life and being an example to others. That's why we see a huge wave of Mormon vloggers, bloggers, eventually TikTokers, and people on Instagram, people trying to express their Mormon image. They are fulfilling a prophetic dictate. And in doing so, they're trying to express a sense of perfectionism. This is all an image, a mirage to a degree, but it's one done so for the missionary effort. Importantly, Mormon women were especially adept at trying to fulfill this cause. There was lots of media sensation on the Mormon mommy blogs and these Mormon mommy vloggers who are able to demonstrate their hip new trends and styles and their cost-efficient ways to feed their large families. This was a way for Mormon women to fulfill the missionary impulse, follow prophetic guidelines, and add money to their family accounts without challenging traditional gender norms. This was a way that Mormon women could fill a vacuum in society and find a need, something that made them relevant. So Ruby Franke's 8-passenger series definitely fit into this longer trajectory of Mormon women using the internet to present their families in a way to spread the Mormon gospel. But this isn't just a story about Mormons and the quest for perfectionism on screen. This is a story about American capitalism, because Ruby Franke was not just reflective of the LDS impulse, she was reflective of the broader American impulse to commodify the home in the modern era by trying to force her children to be happy, to get endorsements, to gain more followers. It's also the story of the dangerous cycle of outrage that comes from these performances when she steps too far and triggers a backlash that in turn force her to retrench and become more radical. This is a common and tragic feature of the modern media presence. But more than just a story of how Mormons became American through consumerism, the Ruby Franke story is also an example of the American fascination with Mormons, and specifically Mormons of a particular type. Mormons have always caught the American imagination, but in specific ways. There was always this impulse, this instinct that behind those smiling faces of the Mormons, there was something nefarious, something conniving, something that wasn't as initially assumed. You see this all the way back in the 19th century when those polygamous Mormons were depicted as these conniving elders. The very first Sherlock Holmes story, by the way, talks about him upsetting and disrupting this Mormon polygamous ring of these deceivious and mischievous elders. But even in the 20th century, when Mormons start marching toward American assimilation, there's still this American suspicion that they can't be really as wholesome as they are. This is why I would argue that John Krakauer's Under the Banner of Heaven, the best-selling book on Mormonism, becomes so popular because it confirmed these suspicions that behind this wholesome image, there is something deceiving, there's something dangerous, something violent. And so this focus on this violent turn in the Franke household behind this positive 8 passengers videos definitely fit into this larger media fascination and tradition. This is why, by the way, so many media productions about Mormons fit this stereotype, whether it be HBO's Big Love, which shows that behind this family with a modern job and trendy clothes are secret polygamists, or Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. It's in the title, right? These moms who are actually swinging, or the vloggers like Franke, who are not really as wholesome as they appear. But besides Mormonism and capitalism, this is also a story about fundamentalism. And by fundamentalism, I mean the modern embrace of a countercultural rejection of modernity, which can be seen in politics, religion, and society. It's connected to, but not synonymous with, the MAGA movement. It's this turn to a dark rejection of what you see as wokeness as the world around us. You can see this transition, for instance, in Ruby Franke's move from the 8 passengers positive quest for a perfect family to her Moms for Truth era, where she is denouncing the corruptions of modern society. This is part and parcel of a larger Mormon American shift, especially in conservative circles, from a quest for happiness and perfection to an embrace of pessimistic apocalypticism. This is what primed Franke to become a follower of Jodi Hildebrandt, who proved to be a master at manipulating this distrust of mainstream culture. It is also what introduced new language into Franke's vocabulary and videos, like when she denounced, in a very chilling scene in the documentary, "Your woke child is a walking zombie." More than just depicting American fundamentalism, though, I actually think that the Franke and Hildebrandt story is a particular hue of the Mormon fundamentalist story. Now, this might sound surprising. There's not polygamists involved. There's not so much patriarchy in the story. But if you think about the common media narratives of the FLDS movement and Warren Jeffs, this story actually fits in because Hildebrandt acts as a domineering patriarch in requiring confessions, doling out punishments, divvying up families, converting Mormonism into a message of control. Even the physical backdrop of Hildebrandt's house in St. George with the large red rocks is similar to the physical backdrop when people talk about Short Creek. Just again, think about the cover image for Krakauer's Under the Banner of Heaven. Both the patriarchal fundamentalism of Warren Jeffs and the matriarchal fundamentalism of Hildebrandt are 2 examples of how fundamentalism can transform religion into messages of control. I'll close this video by addressing the 2 most frequently asked questions, at least to me, regarding this series and most media depictions of Mormons. Is Devil in the Family fair to the Latter-day Saint tradition? I would argue quite so. I think it was very careful in not painting with a broad brush, both by zeroing in on the Franke family itself, but also by offering lots of counter examples of people in the Franke's family and neighborhood who found peace and happiness and health in the Latter-day Saint tradition. Even within the Franke story, you have Kevin Franke, who is Ruby's husband, who says in the closing remarks that ultimately this is a story of faith, and that if you put your faith in the wrong hands, you can lose everything. Those wrong hands, as framed in this story, is Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke's rightward turn, not the LDS Church. I frankly get frustrated when I see so many Latter-day Saints who denounce this show and others as being anti-Mormon, because it just demonstrates that when you are so desperate to use your hammer in order to defend the church against misrepresentations, it often means that everything, even fair depictions like this show, look like a nail. And the final question: How representative are the Frankes for modern Mormons? The short answer is they're not very representative. They are extreme expressions. However, and this is a big however, there are impulses, ideas, anxieties within this story that are rooted to Mormonism, not just the desire to present a perfect image on social media that I talked about earlier, but even the more violent and dark elements like the zombie children or the abuse. We've seen enough episodes in recent years. Think about Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, covered in the wonderful book by Leah Sawtile, When the Moon Turns to Blood. There is, unfortunately, a long history of people using elements within the Mormon tradition, whether you want to say they manipulate them or they fulfill them, might come from different perspectives, but are able to create these fundamentalist and extremes ideas that, while not representative in their extreme presentations, are still rooted within the Mormon tradition. Jodi Hildebrandt's connections programs, these support groups that had thousands of followers in Utah, show how popular her ideas were and that they were tapping into an anxiety that was quite widespread. So I think this story should force people within the Latter-day Saint tradition to ask questions of what within their society is enabling people to come to these extreme solutions. And there you have it. That's my analysis of the Hulu series Devil in the Family and what it tells us about Mormonism, religion, and American culture. If I missed anything, if you want to engage me on some points, feel free to leave some comments. If you think I said some things worth shareable, please share the video. And if you want more analysis on Mormonism, religion, and American culture and politics, please give my account a follow.